Westfield Memorial Hospital provides high-quality health care to residents of Western New York, offering patients the most sophisticated medical advancements while keeping the ease and familiarity of a community hospital. Support for Chautauqua Sunrise has been provided by WRFA 107.9 FM, Jamestown's public radio station, streaming online 24/7 at WRFALP.com. Low power to the people. Meter's Restaurant, a family tradition for over 50 years in downtown Ripley, is a proud supporter of Chautauqua Sunrise. Meter's provides all-day dining, banquet services, and custom catering, specializing in pie. Funding for Chautauqua Sunrise is provided in part by the Chautauqua County Industrial Development Agency, with offices in Jamestown and Dunkirk, helping businesses to prosper throughout Chautauqua County. From supporting people with disabilities to enjoy great lives, to providing health care services that are available to anyone, the Resource Center has been improving our county for more than 60 years. Learn more about how the Resource Center makes a positive difference in people's lives.
Is getting vaccinated on your to-do list? We can help you check it off, because we make getting vaccinated easy. You've got this, because we've got you. To learn more, visit yougotthis.usaging.org.
From the Access Chautauqua Studios in Mayville, it's Chautauqua Sunrise. Chautauqua Sunrise is hosted by Doc Hamels and supported by the award-winning volunteers at Access Chautauqua. We are here to share local news, colorful interviews, and events of interest to everyone. Chautauqua Sunrise is broadcast live Saturday mornings each week from 9 to 10 a.m. Send events via email or call us live. Check us out on YouTube and Facebook. And now, from the Access Chautauqua Studios, it's Chautauqua Sunrise.
Well, good morning, everybody. I say good morning because I'm not sure it is or not. Wow, what a week. As Jeb Clampett used to say, woo doggies. Wow, I hope you're all doing well. This week has been unreal. Power outages and all kinds of crazy weather, and we're in for round 2 here, probably just after we're done with the show. I see start at 10 o'clock, Justin. So we're gonna hightail it out of here, right? The road conditions aren't too bad this morning when I came over, but I think they're starting to slowly degrade or deteriorate. They're going to get worse. It's Saturday morning. You know this, everybody that watches me. Anyways, just a quick note. Coming up Mayville Hill out of Westfield, there was a tree in the right lane that was kind of blocking part of the road. So if you're coming up the hill or down the hill, just be careful. They had the firemen down there and police, they're directing traffic. So this that time of year, isn't it? Just we're in the wild weather season. All right, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. We're streaming live, as far as I know. Is that true, Jeff? He's not answering me. Oh, yes, we are. Thank you. So good afternoon to my friends in the Ukraine. Oh, the cable's down. All right. I don't know where I'm broadcasting. Good morning, wherever you are. But we're streaming live, so that's just about as good. Remember the show, if you want to catch it, you can catch us 2 and 8 every day on Spectrum 1301 right here out of Mayville. So we're glad you are here. If you are able to watch us today and you have a question or comment, from me or my guest or an announcement, give us a call at 716-753-5225. If you are shy or you forget to call in, because the phones could be out right now for all I know, chautauquasunrise@gmail.com. Please send us your announcements free of charge. That's what we do here. We are the communicator in this part of the world, all right? For those of you that are listening to me on WRFA 107.9, low power to the people, Good afternoon, Tuesdays at 1 o'clock, 107.9 out of Jamestown. Glad you could check in with us. And remember, if you want to see what we look like, you can go to YouTube and look up the show and so forth, because sometimes we flash up information that you can't see because you can only hear. All right. So I hope you all, wherever you are well and safe. And for those that are listening Tuesday at 1, probably the storm is hopefully by now done. For the rest of us, we got an interesting weekend ahead of us. Speaking of weather, Buffalo Bills. Going to be interesting tomorrow to see how that goes. I'm glad that I'll be home watching it on the TV rather than trying to go over there and watch it in live. Wow. One year I went there and I had the heated seats, but I still had my scarf up to here and I had like this much view for the football game. It was pretty windy and cold. So for those of you who are diehard Bills fans, go for it. For those of us that are wimps, we'll be watching on TV. Go Bills. Okay. I want to just tell you as a way of introduction to my show today, before I get to my announcements. Today we're going to be talking about another heavy topic. Last week we talked about human trafficking and all that sort of thing. This time of year is tough. It's post holidays, the hiatus of the emotions and excitement is over, and now we're into weather patterns like you see right now. It's dark, it's gray, sunlight is kind of limited, and we have what we call light deprivation, and it just kind of gets us in the blues and kind of in a real funk. And sometimes it goes even deeper. So we're going to be talking about some things and topics and what to do when you're feeling blue, and if you're not to the point where you're feeling good about yourself, and some people actually are considering, suicide and those kinds of things. So we're going to be talking about a new program called Rural Minds, and so I want you to stay tuned. And as always, please, if when we're all done with the show today, go to YouTube, share it with whomever you need to share it with, all right? And because it's important that we all stay healthy and take care of each other here in Chautauqua County, all right? So that's what's coming up. Right now I want to go over some quick announcements, and then we're going to get to my guest who's anxiously waiting to get on here. All right, Mr. Zook, slide 15, here we go. Circa Mechanics to perform their new show at the Reg Linney Center for the Arts on January 26th. Modern circus artists called the Circa Mechanics, or the Circus of Mechanics, returns to Jamestown this month with all the new performance. Zephyr will be presented at Reg Linney Center for the Arts before a live audience Friday, January 26th at 7:30 p.m. I mean, what the heck? Live entertainment in Jamestown, in Chautauqua County, at the Reg. How cool is that? In Zephyr, a whirlwind of circus by Circa Mechanics, audiences will witness the tug of war that exists between man and nature in the name of progress. Humans have been harnessing the power of the wind for thousands of years. The beauty and efficacy of that timeless and ingenious process inspired the creative team of Circa Mechanics to create a theatrical circus show that harnessed human power instead of wind to generate an energetic, acrobatic experience. Woo, say that 5 times fast. Circa Mechanics has designed and built a performance windmill to serve as the multifunctional mechanical centerpiece of their story. Mounted on a turntable, the windmill combines both modern and older, more picturesque elements, with the transformation from one aspect to another providing a change of scenery in real time. Inspired by a visit to a working windmill in central England, Zephyr, which means gentle breeze from the Greek god of the west wind Zephyrus, tells the story of Nigel, mill owner and operator, and his complicated relationship with the wind, natural resources that powers his flour mill. Sounds interesting. His reliance on wind is tested, and in turn, he is lured by fuel in the name of progress as his primary energy source. His choices cause elation and disruption, aptly represented by the community. The mill serves as dynamic and lyrical circus acts. Nigel grapples with tough choices and unintended outcomes with humor and optimism, which lead to acceptance, coexistence, and balance with wind, progress, and his community. All right, so where do you get tickets for Zephyr? You give them a call at 484-7070 at the Reg. You can stop down at the box office. I always want to say post office. The box office over on 3rd Street, or you can go to reggielinea.com and get tickets there. All right, sounds like really cool. All right, moving ahead. Next Goal Wins and Wish. That's 2 different titles. Next Goal Wins and Wish to show at the Reggie Linea Center for the Arts. All right, directed by, here we go, Taika Waititi, Jojo Rabbit, Thor Ragnarok. I guess this person has done all this. Next Goal Wins, Wednesday, January 17th at 7 p.m. follows the infamously terrible American Samoa soccer team known for a brutal 2001 FIFA match. They lost 31-0. With the 2014 World Cup qualifiers approaching, the team hires down on his luck Maverick coach Thomas Rongen, played by Michael Fassbender, hoping he will turn the world's worst soccer team around in this humorous and heartfelt underdog story. Next Goal Win is rated PG-13, 104 minutes long. This reminds me of Cool Runnings when they had the bobsled team out of Jamaica, I think it was. Sounds like a lot of fun. Okay, in the next movie called The Wish, this is going to be shown on January 20th at 2 p.m. Sensory-friendly showing. Now remember, friendly showing means they're not going to have it quite as loud. The lights are going to be up a little bit, so if you have children or anyone that has some issues with loud noises, they're going to be working to make this kind of easier to sit and listen to. All right, this is what's going on. Asha, a sharp-witted idealist, makes a wish so powerful that it is answered by a cosmic force. A little ball of boundless energy called Star. Together, Asha and Star confront a most formidable foe, the ruler of Rosas, King Magnifico, to save her community and prove that when the will of one courageous human connects with the magic of the stars, wondrous things can happen. Okay, and they have all kinds of different voices of lots of famous people. Tickets are $7 only for family films, $6. And again, they add $1 for theater restoration. Keep that place looking good. 484-7070, once again, or go to their box office. All right, coming up, here's an announcement. A message from the Chautauqua County Office for Aging Services and New York Connects. Is getting the flu and COVID-19 vaccines on your to-do list? Should be. Just head into one of our or their vaccine clinics. You've got this because we've got you, according to them. For more information than what they're asking you to call Chautauqua County New York Connects line at 716-753-4582. I think we even have that, don't we, Jeff? 753-4582. Funded by the U.S. Administration for Community Living through a grant through U.S. Aging. There it is right there, folks. All right, so they got some clinics coming up. So I'm going to give you my best shot to say it all. And so here we go. In Pine Valley, on January 18th from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. in South Dayton. Clymer, January 19th, 2:30 to 4:30 at 8672 East Main Street in Clymer. The Pine Valley one is over on Route 83. Forestville, Wesleyan Church on January 23rd, 12:30 to 2:30. That's over on Prospect Road in Forestville. Healing Word Ministry, January 30th, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Over on West 3rd Street in Jamestown. Over in Sherman, my neighbors. Let's see here. On January 31st, from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., that's going to be at the school, I think it is. Sherman SD, what is that, school district? At 127 Park Street. All right, that's over in Sherman. And next week we're going to announce the February one, so I'll skip those for right now. All right, did you know that you can be part of the largest winter festival in Western New York? Yeah, there's still time to sign up your business to sponsor or be a vendor for the Mayville Winter Festival, the largest event of its kind in Western New York. The annual Mayville Winter Festival is scheduled for President's Day weekend, February 16th through the 18th. This year, and there's room for all to participate. This year, the organizing committee is working to create a unique vendor experience that will enhance the event for both vendors and attendees. That would be me. All vendors will be in one easy-to-find location under a large heated tent. Sounds good for today. So visitors will be more likely to see all the merchandise in one place rather than having to spread it all out and go into several locations across the wide, expansive lakeside park. This vendor focus is designed to help draw foot traffic for local businesses participating, and the Chamber, which we're a proud member of, is working to provide additional overnight security so vendors can be assured that their merchandise will be safe overnight in the tent. Anyone who's interested in being a vendor, food provider, or sponsor for this Winter Festival in Mayville can sign up through the Chamber's web calendar. And if you have questions, you can reach out to Shannon at 484-1101, extension 208. 484-1101, extension 208. And hang on, I know I have something more. Oh, yes, in my hometown. Okay, this is a project I've been working on. Wait a minute. Jeff's going to kill me. Go to slide 17. I skipped one, I'm sorry. A friend of ours who's going to be on the show, Cindy Reedy. She's involved with the Chautauqua County Veterans Group. She just got a big award, okay? Chautauqua County. This happened on the 27th of December. The legend of Mike Ricketts, a good friend of mine and fellow Mason who has passed away, was honored at the Chautauqua Leadership Network's annual meeting recently by presenting the first annual Mike and Kathy Ricketts Leadership Award to one of over a dozen of the public nominations. This award is meant to represent an adult leader who exemplifies the meaning of leadership in our community. We are honored to present the first Mike and Kathy Ricketts Leadership Award to Cindy Reedy of the Dwyer Chautauqua Veterans Peer-to-Peer Project. If you're not familiar, this is where veterans are working together to talk about their feelings, their experiences while they were in service for our country and so forth. And it's been highly successful. And Cindy has been the mover and shaker of that. According to Cindy Johnson, they say they've witnessed the passion Cindy has for people, and especially the ones she represents in the Dwyer program, and she is perfect for this award. Lauren Peters, Cindy's nominator, explains that Cindy did this. She's dedicated, compassionate, and life-changing are just a few things to describe Cindy Reedy. Cindy is the project coordinator for the Joseph P. Dwyer Veterans Peer Support Project. Cindy not only possesses great communication skills, but she also motivates and inspires the people around her. Without Cindy leading the Dwyer group, they don't know where it would be today. It is a much needed service and program for our veterans in Chautauqua County, and we are lucky to have such an amazing woman leading us on the journey we've endured after the active military life they all once lived. Mike Ricketts passed away in the fall of 2022. The family wished to establish a fund to support leadership development throughout Chautauqua County. Representatives of the Chautauqua Region Community Foundation reached out to the Chautauqua Leadership Network, which I'm a member, to develop a partnership. The Mike and Kathy Ricketts Leadership Fund will annually recognize adults demonstrating leadership with a monetary award administered by the Chautauqua Leadership Network. Okay, so for more information regarding this, you can always give Lisa a call at 661-3390. And what I'm very pleased to share with you is Cindy was on this show years ago when they first just started, remember? And it's probably about 8 years ago maybe. So Cindy's going to be on the show with Greg Carlson pretty soon, and we're going to talk more about that particular program. Now, finally, I skipped ahead. Slide 18, Banner Project. This is a reminder to all my friends and relatives and fellow residents in Ripley. The Ripley VFW is kicking off its Hometown Heroes Banner Project. Those who are interested in honoring a Ripley veteran with a 36x18 banner, please fill out an application found at the town clerk's office, or you can give VFW member Dave Power a call at 736-5805, 736-5805. Each banner is only $160. Includes everything, the hardware and the banner, and we're trying to get the applications in by February 2nd. And then all of these banners will be down the streets of Ripley for Memorial Day this coming year, And I'm intimately involved because I'm doing a lot of work with the VFW as town historian, so we're very pleased to be doing this project together. Woo! I'm going to take a breather. You stay right there. We're going to be right back, and this is for you.
SocialSecurity.gov is so friendly.
It makes the crankiest Klingon smile.
Okay, we're back. It's always fun and a pleasure to have someone I've never met before or had on the show, and that's today's case. I want to welcome Jeff Winton, who is the CEO and founder of Rural Minds.
Thank you.
And you are more than that. I mean, I've looked at your Facebook page, like, you're all over the place. I mean, it's like looking at me. It's like, wow. You're involved with dairy and horses and dogs, and all, especially dogs, close to my own heart. So welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you're one of your folks that works for you at Rural Minds said, well, you and Jeff know each other. I go, no, we don't. He said, well, I thought you did by the way he talked. I go, I've never met Jeff. In fact, this is the first we actually have talked, I think. I don't even remember. I think you emailed me or something like that. So so good to have you.
Well, thank you.
And as I mentioned earlier in the show, we cover all kinds of topics. And last week we talked about human trafficking, and we've talked about sexual abuse. And these are topics that sometimes people shy away from. We don't do that here at Chautauqua Sunrise. This show is all about our community, and if there's an issue that we need to put some Chautauqua Sunrise light on, we're going to do it. So first, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into the weeds about your program.
Yeah, well, thank you. And first of all, thank you for tackling a very difficult topic, especially on a snowy Saturday morning. As I tell people in person when I do various speaking engagements, that this is a very heavy, very difficult topic. So if any of your viewers or listeners start to struggle as we start to have this conversation, by all means, please feel free to step away.
That's right.
Turn the station off for a bit and then come back if you're ready. But it's a topic that probably most everyone, because of the human condition, has dealt with either in their own lives or their own family or community lives. And sometimes we put that in the recess of our minds and our hearts until such time that a conversation like this takes place. So it is difficult, but it's one that, as we will be talking about today, is very much needed. And it's a conversation that all too often in rural areas like Chautauqua County isn't had. And so that's why I so much appreciate this opportunity. I am a native of Chautauqua County. I grew up in Sinclairville on a dairy farm. I graduated in the class of 1976 from Cassadaga Valley.
Okay.
And then left to pursue my undergraduate degree in agriculture at Cornell University.
Nice.
Spent the first couple of years of my career as a cooperative extension agent over in Saratoga County.
How cool.
Yeah, over in eastern New York. And being a horse lover, that was a great place to be.
Yeah.
And then I had the opportunity to enter into what has basically been the bulk of the rest of my career, which is the advertising and communications field. And I moved to New York City. I didn't tell my parents this when it happened, but 3 days into my New York City experience, I got mugged at gunpoint. And the reason I didn't tell my parents, who were both alive at the time in Sinclairville, as I knew they'd be down there with the pickup truck picking me up.
Get in here.
Back. Yeah.
Get in here. Back to the farm.
Yeah. So that really was the foundation for the rest of my career. I've worked in advertising, public relations, corporate affairs, in the agricultural industry, and then eventually went into the healthcare industry. And that's what really then prepared me for the work that we're doing now in Rural Minds, which is an organization that is 2 years in the making. So I currently live on a dairy farm, not my family's dairy farm, but a dairy farm that I bought nearly 20 years ago. And I tell people, depending on the barn, we have a different address. So our main mailing address is Mayville. One of the barns is in Sherman, and then I think another piece of the farm is in Panama. So it's where all three of those towns come together.
Welcome to Chautauqua County, right? For those who are listening, I mean, I understand completely.
Yeah. GPS gets very
What
confused.
school district are you in?
I am in Chautauqua Lake. Yeah, that I can tell you.
My son and daughter-in-law moved back into the county recently, and the mailman did not know what post office they should be. So I guess they finally came to terms that they're actually in Sherman but live in Westfield.
Yeah.
And I don't even know where.
And it's not even due to gerrymandering.
Right? Not at all. They just didn't know where they were. So, you have some of these roads where there's nothing on there. When
That's
you build
right.
a house, it's not even on GPS yet.
Yeah,
So
right.
I get it. Well, that's the beauty of rural life.
Yeah,
it's
that's right.
like boundaryless.
Yep.
We just
everything
flow.
flows into each other. Yeah.
Okay, so I know you love horses because I saw pictures of you on horses.
Yeah.
So what kind of horse is that? Or what breed?
Well, we breed and show American saddlebreds, and also have a Morgan and a Hackney pony. So I grew up on a dairy farm, as I mentioned. I always had a horse on the farm that I showed in 4-H and just local shows.
Yeah.
And then I literally did not get back on a horse for 40 years. And when I was 57, I got my first horse, and the rest is history. We now are breeding them and also show them. The horse farm is in the Midwest, so I split my time between Chautauqua County and another farm we own just outside of Kansas City. So you can imagine today we're cheering for the Chiefs, tomorrow we're cheering for the Bills.
Good answer. Good answer. Because everybody is listening right now had that question.
So the horses have been a great way for any time I ended up moving, which up until recently, because of corporate jobs I had, I would get relocated fairly often. And so every time we moved with the horses, which is no easy proposition, as you can imagine, we would go to a new community and meet new people through the equine circle.
Right.
So eventually I'm hoping to have horses here at the farm in Mayville. We've got a horse barn right now. We have cows in it. But eventually I hope to have some horses here. I've only been back a couple years now.
Okay. So with the horses, you're doing shows, competition, and that's English style?
It's English, it's Western, it's pulling carriages, it's doing a little of everything.
Okay.
The American Saddlebred's a very diverse breed. It was bred in the United States. It actually goes back to Paul Revere's horse.
Oh, wow.
Little piece of trivia. And they were developed in the plantations in the South.
Super.
So it's a very versatile breed that can be used to do a lot things.
And so your dairy farm is a working
It
dairy
is.
farm? So
It
you're
is.
milking and
Absolutely.
sending it to
Yep.
the co-op or wherever it goes?
The guys were starting to milk at 5 this morning. I do chores on the farm as well every morning and night. I'm more in charge of the heifers and the calves, which is my love. But my nephew who lives in Fredonia works for us. He drives from Fredonia every day.
Oh, boy.
And then our farm manager, who's one of our best friends, Greg Walcott, has been with us for 15 years. He lives on the farm with his family. And so milking starts normally around 5:30 or so. And they were just finishing up before I left. We're trying to get ahead of this storm that's coming in so that we're not out there in the elements trucking sawdust and hay around.
I'm afraid to even ask you this question, but I will anyway. How many head do you have?
We have 100 head.
I knew you were going to say some big number.
Yeah, well, that's not big.
Well, to me, it's a lot of cow.
Well, but in this day and age for a
That's
dairy
true.
farm,
That's
that's not
true.
a lot.
Yeah.
And, we had more cattle up until about 5 years ago. We had a farm auction to sell some of our cattle, and now what we're doing is focusing more on the higher genetics cattle. We still do sell milk. We're a proud member of the Upstate Cooperative. So if people shop at Wegmans or Tops and look for that Upstate logo,
there it is.
I can vouch for the quality of the milk that comes from our farm. But you have to have another source of income for a farm that size. And, that's a dilemma. And that actually kind of dovetails into the work we're doing with Rural Minds. It used to be the farm I grew up on. I think we milked maybe 30 cows, even though my dad also drove school bus for Casadega Valley.
Absolutely. That's very common.
Yeah, it is, and probably still is.
Perfect hours, too. All done with the milk, you get on the bus.
Exactly. I'll tell you a funny little story. So Dad, for a while, drove our bus. And I grew up in a family of 4 boys. I have 3 younger brothers who all live over in the Sinclairville area still. And so my dad, if we were running late with chores after he had left, he would literally slow down the bus a bit because he knew that if he got to our farm and we weren't done with chores, we were going to miss the bus, right? And we had 1 car at that point. So
funny.
we always got to school on time, but Dad always had to kind of gauge when he got to our
We're not
farm.
quite done yet.
That's right.
Two cows ago.
And that was before cell phones, so we couldn't call him.
We all have stories like that, I'm sure. Well, cows and horses are nice, but you raise dogs. That's that's my love.
Yeah.
So you got whippets?
Whippets, and primarily whippets. We've been breeding whippets for 35 years.
And I saw somebody at Westminster.
Yeah, we've had a number at Westminster over the years.
That's amazing.
We've had a number at a lot of shows. We co-own them with a number of people all over the world. One of our top whippets is in Germany right now competing. And so, again, I started that as a kid growing up on the farm in 4-H. We had a mutt, he was part collie. We had a Pembroke Welsh Corgi. These were actually working dogs on our farm.
Right.
So they would be out herding the cattle, would bring the cows in the morning, we'd give them a quick bath and take them to a dog show. So
that's the beauty of it all, really. Yeah.
So 4-H was really a key factor in me pursuing this hobby.
Times.
And so I then became a competitive runner and ran for many years in a lot of races. So I wanted a breed of dog that was fast, and whippets are actually, 40 miles an hour. They're faster than even greyhounds, which we also have 2 greyhounds.
Wow.
And then the newest breed we just started with about a year ago is a very rare breed called the Ozawack, and they're from sub-Saharan Africa.
I saw that somewhere. They're kind of a tall, skinny dog.
They kind of look like a greyhound, but so we have one right now that actually this weekend is competing at shows in Florida, where I'm sure he's much happier than being up here.
So
in
do you
Chautauqua
have like this
County.
big whiteboard at your house and keep track of all this stuff? My head's spinning with it. I thought I was a busy guy.
No, you know what it is? We've been very fortunate and very blessed to have a lot of people that help us. I couldn't do a fraction of this on my own. So we've got people, as I mentioned, that run the farm. We've got people that train the horses. We've got people that compete with our dogs. And so it's, I've always been pretty good at juggling. I think that comes with growing up on a dairy farm. But I enjoy the diversity of it. And I tell people when I have a cocktail party, you've got the most diverse group of people you'd ever imagine, because you've got dairy farmers, you've got horse trainers, you've got, big city people, and everybody gets along. It's a tapestry of the world and our society.
That's very cool.
Which it should be.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's get serious about why we're here. You had a family member that you lost.
Yes.
And I'm assuming that's what got you started on Rural Minds.
Absolutely.
So why don't you tell the story and let's get into the matter.
So this is a result of a family tragedy that took place several years ago. My 28-year-old nephew, Brooks, who lived in Sinclairville, was born there and went to Casadega Valley, worked on both our family farm as well as on the farm that I now own here in Mayville. And he was a big, lovable guy, the life of the party.
Burly guy.
Yeah, big,
I saw
burly
his picture,
guy.
Yeah.
6'6", 240.
Holy cow. And you're related.
Yeah. Well, I used to be a lot bigger too until I started running. So. But the funny thing about Brooks is he was a star football player and wrestler.
Oh, yeah.
But back then it was hard to find anybody in his weight category to wrestle. So
Always
he'd go
won.
to wrestling matches.
Go right to States.
There'd be nobody there. But he was just very happy-go-lucky, very outgoing, very pleasant young man who everybody loved. I mean, he had friends, like I just mentioned, I have, fortunately, from all walks of life. And so he was at his oldest brother's wedding. My nephew, Todd Jr., who is his oldest brother, got married that weekend. And he was the first in the generation. And coming from a multi-generational farm family, it was one of those mountaintop experiences, as we call it, beautiful September day. Wedding pictures were taken with the cornfield behind, and nice. I'm sure there was probably a cow or two somewhere in the wedding party. And so as I was leaving the wedding reception for his brother, Brooks was there with his 3-year-old twins. He had a little boy and a little girl.
Boy.
And gave me a big bear hug, which wasn't out of the ordinary. And he said, "Uncle Jeff, I just want to thank you for everything you've done for me and my family." And again, I didn't think anything of
Right,
it because he
typical.
was a very gracious, very thankful young man. So the next day, we're preparing for my mom's 75th birthday. And so we had a big party planned, and because we had out-of-town guests for the wedding, it was going to be a really wonderful time that weekend. The next day is when the world changed and when my family was devastated and will be forever.
Forever.
So at that point, we had 3 different farms. We had the farm here in Mayville and 2 in Falconer that we were leasing. That was before this auction that I told you we had to downsize. And so I'm making my rounds starting at 5, going from dairy farm to dairy farm. And as I was heading back to Mayville, he lived in Sinclairville, I was passing his house that he was in the process of buying, and I saw a fire truck, I saw police cars, I saw an ambulance, and I knew something very bad had happened. So I pull the pickup into the driveway. One of the neighbors who we had all grown up with come running across the road, crying hysterically, and grabbed me. And she said, "Jeff, don't go any further. We just found your nephew in the backyard, and he's dead."
Oh my gosh.
And I mean, at that point, as you can imagine, I'm reliving it right now, telling the story. The world stopped. And it was surreal because of everyone in our family. He would have been the last one that we would have expected, because on the surface, he seemed so happy and so easygoing and had everything going for him. 3 beautiful, 3-year-old twins. He was engaged, a fiance who, is wonderful, who has now subsequently raised the kids. Had worked for us, but also was working at one of the steel mills up in Dunkirk. And on the surface, seemed to have everything going for him. But he was suffering in silence, which all too often happens with people living with mental illness and substance use disorder, especially in rural areas like Chautauqua County, because it's a highly stigmatized illness. And part of the problem, Doc, is that mental illness, regardless if it's depression, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, alcohol use disorder, is not considered an illness. It's considered a personality weakness. It's considered a character flaw. And so people don't feel comfortable talking about it like we do if we have COVID. We talk about it. If we have cancer, we talk about it. If we have a heart disease issue, we talk about it. But this is one of the last hidden illnesses in our society that people, especially in rural areas, do not talk about, because for generations, we've been embarrassed. For generations, people living with some type of mental illness have been the brunt of jokes, very cruel jokes. And so until such time that people will talk about it respectfully and give each other grace for living with this illness, we're never going to turn the corner on this epidemic. And this is clearly an epidemic in this country.
I'm sitting here listening about that in the rural areas, they don't talk about it. I guess, just from my observation, and this is just my observation, people live in the rural area, you're a hunter, you're a tough guy, you're an outdoors person, and this would be a sign of weakness. This would make you wimpy. And so what do? You suck it in. And meanwhile, you're eroding, you're deteriorating, which I couldn't say earlier, on the inside. And people aren't realizing this. And you have shared some slides with me on some really strange statistics that I wasn't aware of. And so Jeff Zook, when you're listening, because I have to differentiate to Jeff's here, if you want to pop up at least a couple of those slides as we're talking, and we'll reference them. You said that, so for Rural Minds, you founded a not-for-profit organization, 501c3?
Yeah, it is a 501c3.
So why don't you go through your mission and your vision right now?
So 2 years ago, we launched Rural Minds. Even though my nephew died a few years ago, we were doing due diligence and wanted to ensure that there was a need for another not-for-profit in this space, because there's MHA, NAMI, American Foundation for Suicide, all great organizations. And because I've worked in the healthcare industry, specifically in the biopharmaceutical industry, I had worked with these groups. So after my nephew died, because we were hurting, my family was hurting, we started reaching out to these groups saying, what are you guys doing for people in small town America? And there was silence at the other end of the phone. And they said, we wish we could do more, but we really don't understand people that live in rural areas. One thing that most people don't realize about, Doc, 46 million people live in rural areas in the United States. That's a huge part of our population. 46 million people.
Okay, 2 words, no access.
Yep, access is a huge issue.
Whether it's good mental health support, medical service, educational services in some cases, transportation, let's not even talk about that, and on and on. So when I saw what you had sent me, you piqued my interest. You had me right there. You had me at the 46 million people. And when I start to think about Chautauqua County, yeah, we're pretty rural. But then you start to get out. You talk about Kansas.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yep.
That's a whole nother world.
Well, we are a national organization. We're based here in Mayville, but we're national in scope. And so we deal with people in states like Montana and the Dakotas. They may have to travel 5 hours to get to a primary care physician. The fact remains that we've got a shortage of primary care physicians in this country. When I moved back here 2 years ago, I literally had to wait 8 months to get into a PCP because there's such a shortage here in Chautauqua County. Yeah. Fortunately, I didn't have an issue. If I did, I would have ended up, in the ER someplace. Right. So you then start looking at physicians that deal with mental illness, and it becomes dire. 65% of the counties in the United States don't have psychiatrists. 65%. So we clearly do have an access issue. Now, one thing that is giving us hope is once COVID hit in 2020, we all learned about telemedicine.
I was just going to say it's got to be telemedicine.
So telemedicine is helping. However, another statistic I always like to remind people about through our work with Rural Minds is that nearly 30% of households in the United States in rural areas still don't have broadband, or they have less than adequate broadband. Right. Mine isn't great. This morning before I left, it was down. I'm sure storm related. Yep. So you've got that issue that not everybody has access to good internet service, but you also have the issue of people in rural areas. It takes a while to earn people's trust. Right. And so something as difficult as talking about your depression or your bipolar disorder, you may not necessarily want to pour your heart out to someone on a screen maybe halfway across the country that you've never met. Right. So access,
that relationship building, right?
This slide again shows some of those statistics.
Go ahead, go through them again.
Yeah, so again, 3/4 of the counties don't have a psychiatrist. The 20% have fewer primary care physicians, and again, we've got that issue here in Chautauqua County. The broadband issue we just talked about, and even to find a psychiatric nurse practitioner, 81% of rural counties don't have those. So Rural Minds, again, was founded 2 years ago to really shine a light on this disparity we have and the inequity of people living in rural areas as it relates to getting adequate care for mental illness, including substance use disorder, because alcohol use disorder, opioid use disorder is a part of the mental illness journey in many cases. And many times you find people that might be suffering both from depression and opioid dependency.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can't separate the two. But our premise is there is help out there, but you need to admit you have an issue, which is a big part of it, which is overcoming that stigma. The second part is then you need to talk to someone. And it doesn't have to be a support group. It doesn't even have to be a physician, but you have to have somebody in your orbit, whether it's a family member, a neighbor, somebody at your church, somebody you trust who you can tell about the journey you're on. Because again, we were raised, as you very well said, to not talk about our problems. It's very much a don't ask, don't tell mentality still in many rural areas.
Get over it.
Yep, and pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get over it. Now, Can you do that if you have cancer? Absolutely not. So the fact remains that someone living with a mental illness is no more likely to be able to pull themselves up by their bootstraps than somebody who's had a heart attack or somebody living with breast cancer.
Right. And people that don't realize with depression, sometimes it's a down spiral.
Absolutely.
And once you start to down spiral,
Yeah.
you can't catch yourself.
That's right. We all live with the predisposition to have depression or some type of mental illness throughout our lives because of the pressure of living in this world. And as you said, winters are long here in Chautauqua County. They're dark. And so at any point in time, most of us, including me, have some dark moments. But normally we can get through those. But the thing that people have to remember about mental illness is just like other illnesses and diseases, mental illness and substance use disorder is also genetically predisposed. It runs in families. It runs in my family. My nephew was not the only one suffering, but all too often families don't talk about it until it's too late.
Right.
And that's what happened in my family. So that's why, as painful as it is for me to talk about my nephew's death, I feel it's only right to do that, not only for my remaining family, because we have to remain vigilant and we know that we're genetically predisposed to this, but also we're trying to humanize mental illness. We're trying to put a face on it and personalize it so that other farm families in the county, because my family have been farmers for years, need to also feel comfortable and see, well, gee, here's somebody like us that we've known for decades who have just gone through this loss. That's why we decided at my nephew's funeral to talk in detail about his suicide. And it was a decision that many people questioned, but my mother, who's now gone, but was the true matriarch of the family in many ways, who had helped raise my nephew, said, with tears running down her face that day, sitting in the United Methodist pastor's office, we're going to talk about this, Pastor, and we're going to start talking about it very openly. And that's what really planted the seed for Rural Minds. So if it hadn't been for my mom's courage and her tenacity and the love she had for my nephew, we wouldn't be sitting here talking today.
As much as we always hate to admit it, moms are right.
Yep. And my mom was always right.
My mom was definitely always right, and she told me she was always right. Oh my God, my mom was a lot like that. She was a real spark plug. So what I'm hearing is it's a lot about relationship building, and it's a lot about sharing. It's a lot about saying, yeah, I've been there, and this is what it felt like, and maybe it's never exactly the same, but
there's a lot of commonalities. And so the last 2 years since we launched Rural Minds, we've been fortunate to partner with a lot of other long-standing existing organizations across the United States. One is the Grange, which has been around for 157 years.
Chautauqua County, I think, founded the first Grange.
The
right?
very first one is in Fredonia, that beautiful building right in the heart of, and I'm a member there, by the way. So the Grange has been a very important member because they have been part of the fabric of rural America for 157 years and have 1,500 locations. And several here in Chautauqua County.
I actually have a connection with the Grange. I'm very humbled to say this,
Yep.
but I was the Granges out of Ripley, Westville, as the person of the year.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
Congratulations.
a number of years ago. Well, this was a long time ago, but I'm very proud of that.
So it's a group that has been instrumental in us getting off the ground. We've also partnered with a group here in New York called New York FarmNet, which you might have heard about. FarmNet is a, if you will, joint effort between Cornell University, the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, and the Dyson School, and the state of New York. So FarmNet has people across this state, it's only in New York, but across this state that not only provide financial services to people in agriculture, farm families and those that are involved in agriculture, but also now provide counseling, mental health counseling to families, because what happened back in the 80s when they were launched during the farm crisis, They were getting calls from area farmers across New York saying, I'm having a financial issue. I need somebody to talk to. So they sent a consultant that's on staff out to the farm to sit down and talk to them. 9 times out of 10, they realized what the person was dealing with was a financial issue, absolutely. But the side effect of that, if you will, was the person also was extremely depressed because they were about to lose the family farm. So FarmNet a few years ago put on now what they call family counselors, people that are trained mental health professionals.
I've never heard of this before.
We have counselors here in Chautauqua County. So anyone that's interested in learning more about FarmNet, have them contact me at ruralminds.org. I've got to get that in at least.
Oh, absolutely. You got to do it at least 3 times or more.
Yeah, but FarmNet is a service that's, again, unique to New York. I wish other states have it, but because of the nationwide work we do, there is no other FarmNet in the United States. So yeah, I can be reached at ruralminds.org. You can also personally, it's not on the slide, but reach out to me directly at Jeff, Jeff, at ruralminds.org. I'm happy to hear from people directly. We're also all over social media, Facebook, Instagram. I fortunately have a number of young people that are doing this because, I struggle to keep up, and they grew up with it, right?
Your team was, I don't want to say they were driving me crazy, but they were like, what are you going to ask Jeff? I go, what are we going to talk about? I don't know.
They're very persistent.
And they said, well, we're going to send you slides. And where's the address? I go, we got this.
Well, they were doing their job.
They were definitely, if they need kudos, you got to give them a raise.
Thank you. I will.
Patrick was all over me.
Yeah, Patrick.
And I say that lovingly. I mean, he did his job correctly.
He's a very dedicated young man.
Okay, so I need to get my head around this now. All right, so you and I are sitting in Mayville. You live in Mayville. I live in Ripley, and yet Patrick's in New Jersey. Outside of Philly, he told me. So what does your organization look like? What does Rural Minds look like?
We are completely virtual, and we set this up to be a virtual organization, mainly because we launched in the middle of COVID, and also because we knew we were going to be nationwide, and we didn't necessarily need a brick and mortar existence to do what we needed to do. I have another business. Again, Rural Minds is a not-for-profit business, but I have another consulting business that was launched literally in 2020, 2 weeks into COVID, that we launched as a virtual entity. And so we learned a lot about how to run a virtual organization. So as a result, we have people, the executive director of Rural Minds is in just outside of Chicago. We have other people, as you said, in New Jersey. We have people on the West Coast. We have people in other countries, actually. Even though we're focused on the US right now, we have other consultants that work with us that are helping us many times on a volunteer basis in other countries, because this is something that's near and dear to them.
How many people are involved?
We have, again, because we have so many volunteers, it's hard to put a number on that, but between the volunteers, and we've only got a handful of people that actually are getting paid to do this, and I'm not one of them, by the way.
It's okay.
We have, I would say, about a dozen people that are working, and again, that's not nearly enough, but it is what we have right now, and we're fortunate that because we're partnering with other organizations and also with other for-profit companies that are involved in the agricultural space, such as John Deere and Land O'Lakes, and pharmaceutical companies that are invested in researching drugs for mental illness, such as Takeda, such as Johnson & Johnson, such as Lundbeck, a Danish company. We're partnering with them to help collectively advocate, again, for the 46 million people across this country that haven't always had a place at the table or a voice as it relates to policy implications, such as the broadband issue, the Farm Bill, which has been hung up in Washington for months because of the chaos there with the House Speaker and
I didn't notice that. No.
yeah. Well, a lot of people don't realize that had a direct impact.
Absolutely.
Not only on farmers, obviously, because it is the
Everything
farm
was
bill,
just stuck in motion.
but on broadband access, on mental illness, because provisions in there would give funding to expand broadband in rural areas. It would also do more for people living with substance use disorder and mental illness. So we're hoping that finally gets through Congress and can start providing the funding that's sorely needed in this country.
Okay, 5 years from now, what will you have accomplished?
5 years from now, we're hoping that at least people are comfortable talking about this. It's a very humbling proposition what we're doing, because for generations, people haven't felt comfortable talking about mental illness. So it will take generations, literally, to get us to where we need to be. But since your question related to the next 5 years, we're trying to get people to open up and start sharing about their own family stories. We're putting a program in place called a Speakers Bureau right now, where other stories like mine are being collected, so that if we get a call from the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times and they're doing a piece on rural mental health, we've got other voices besides mine or Rural Minds out there. We have a new program called the Rural Resilience Program that was just launched in conjunction with the National Grange, where organizations, whether they're Grange organizations, 4-H, church groups, PTAs, local chambers of commerce, can put on programs on mental illness in rural areas. I'm doing a program next week with the Chautauqua County League of Women's Voters.
I saw that.
and we're hoping after that the County League of Women Voters will be able to start doing some things in the county. So we're really about the grassroots movement. This is all about tapping into organizations that already exist, that are already highly respected and admired, and getting them to help expand this story.
Very smart. We're down to about 2.5 minutes. What's the number that you want them to call? You gave me a special number.
Yep.
So Jeff Zook, get ready.
What I would say to your listeners and viewers, if you remember nothing else about this conversation, at least my part of the conversation, please remember this phone number, which is 988. This is a new program that went into existence 2 years ago, that a person can text or call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you will be connected with a live trained mental health counselor that will help you get through your darkest moment. It's not only for a person who might be struggling, but it's also for the family members.
Absolutely.
So this is something, not only will they help you get through your issue if you don't feel comfortable talking to anyone else, and it's free and it's confidential, but they will also then help you find resources in your area, including in Chautauqua County, in Western Pennsylvania, so that after that call, you can go and seek help that will hopefully help put you on the road to recovery.
So what you're saying, if I take out my phone, go to my text area, and go 988, somebody will answer. This is the first time I ever heard this number.
It's an easy number to remember.
Yeah.
There have been other hotlines in the past that have been this long, because it's like 800 blah 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 blah. I could never remember. I had it programmed into my own phone. But 988, just like 911, is a number you can remember.
So where is 988 located?
It's all over the United States.
It's just a virtual organization.
It's a virtual resource. And
That's
Rural
unreal.
Minds had a seat at the table early on to help them remember that there are people in rural America
Very good.
that may depend on this because they have no other choice or aren't comfortable. And the other thing I always remind people, if you can still call 911. If you are feeling suicidal, or if somebody in your family you're worried about, you can call 911, because first responders, including the wonderful people here in Chautauqua County, are trained, and they can help you, and they will help you get the help you need at that point. 988 is the first point if it's not literally a life or death situation, but 911 is still an option for people that are at that point.
Jeff, we've run out of time, and I thank you for the work you're doing. I get it. For those who are listening right now, take this seriously. Watch this show over and over again. Share it once it's on YouTube or Facebook. Thank you so much for your work. And we're going to have to continue this dialogue, okay?
I hope we can.
Let's make a deal.
Yes,
You're
you
going
got
to come
it.
back. Folks, you've been watching Chautauqua Sunrise. My guest today has been Jeff Winton, the CEO and founder of Rural Minds. All I can tell you is if you're out there and you need help, 988 or 911, talk to somebody, whatever it takes. Your ministers, your even a friend. Okay, be safe, drive safe, be smart out there. Don't go out tonight unless you have to. Tonight and tomorrow are going to be wicked. Take care. We'll see you all next week. Hopefully no snow or anything like that. Thank you.